I never expected my life to change the night I decided to follow Daniel Wright. He was just a night janitor at High Systems, the kind of man you barely notice unless you're paying attention. But that night, something about him made me pause. Something about the way he moved through the empty office. Quiet, steady, like he belonged everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It started when I was reviewing the surveillance footage again. Daniel appeared on the screen leaning over a computer workstation that wasn't his. His movements were careful, deliberate. He typed a few lines, slipped a small device into his jacket, and left as if nothing had happened. I should have felt alarmed. A janitor in the CTO's area after hours? Any CEO would be suspicious. But instead, I felt a chill of curiosity I couldn't shake. I had always trusted my instincts. At 36, running a tech company meant making hard choices fast, and I wasn't about to let a gut feeling go unnoticed. The product launch was weeks away, and every mistake mattered. If Daniel was a threat, I needed to know. If he wasn't, I needed to know that too. That night, I left my office in my usual blazer and heels, swapped them for jeans and a thin sweater, tied my hair low. No makeup. Just me and my eyes, trained to notice everything. I didn't follow him immediately. I watched him leave the building, climbed into his old paint-chipped Honda, and disappeared into the Boston night. I followed 3 cars behind, careful to keep my distance. Downtown lights faded, replaced by dim street lights on worn brick buildings. The car stopped in front of a faded community center sign. Harbor Light. Daniel grabbed the heavy backpack and went inside. I stayed behind the glass, holding my breath. This wasn't what I expected. He started teaching complex ideas about coding, optimization, algorithms. The kids listened intently, fingers moving over keyboards. No distractions, no phones, just learning, because someone believed they were capable. I watched the little girl raise her hand. "Sir, could we use this structure to fix the Sense database?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Exactly, Lucia. That's the real-world application I had in mind." The way he spoke, patient, calm, confident, completely different from the quiet man cleaning floors at High. I realized I had been watching him through the wrong lens all this time. He wasn't a threat. He was building something greater than himself. When the class ended, he handed out old laptops he had prepared, teaching them passwords and programs. A boy held his laptop like it was the most precious thing he had ever owned. I stayed in the car for a long moment, trying to process everything. The man I thought I might need to stop had devoted his life to helping kids who had nothing, giving them knowledge and hope. I left that night with more questions than answers. Who was this man? How had he ended up here? And why had no one else noticed what he was really doing? The next morning, I sat at my desk staring at the name Daniel Wright on the company network. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard as I dug deeper into his past. The files told a story I couldn't ignore. Daniel Wright wasn't just a janitor. He had been a lead systems architect at Vanguard Logic. Fired, silenced, forgotten. Whistleblower on a medical system error. A man who had lost everything, yet found the way to keep doing good. I leaned back in my chair, heart heavy. My assumptions, my suspicions, my judgments, they all felt wrong. I had been ready to see danger only to find something far more powerful. A man quietly changing lives while the world walked past him. And just like that, I realized something. Following him that night wasn't just about figuring out a potential threat. It was about seeing someone I had completely misjudged. About learning that sometimes the people we overlook are the ones quietly shaping the world. The next night, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. Daniel Wright, the man who cleaned our floors, was creating something extraordinary for kids who had nothing. I kept replaying the footage in my mind, the way he greeted them, the way their eyes lit up when they understood a concept for the first time, the way he treated every single laptop, every cord, every student as if it mattered more than anything else in the world. I left my office earlier than usual, without telling anyone, and drove straight to Harbor Light. The building looked even smaller in the daylight. Paint peeling, a few windows cracked, but inside, something incredible was happening.
Children crowded around old computers, some with wires sticking out, some with missing keys, yet they typed as if the machines were new. Daniel moved quietly among them, crouching down to explain a concept, his voice patient and warm. He never raised it, never rushed, never scolded. "Remember," he said to a group of teens, "logic is like life. If you make a mistake, trace it back, learn from it. That's how progress works." I watched from the doorway, hidden. I wanted to see if he noticed me. He didn't. He never did. His focus was entirely on the kids. One little boy with red hair kept struggling with a program. Daniel leaned down, gently guiding his hand over the mouse. The boy's face lit up, and for a moment, I felt like I was intruding on something sacred. Minutes later, a young girl named Lucia raised her hand again. "Sir, can we design an app to help our parents?" Daniel's face softened. "Absolutely. That's the purpose of learning, to help others." I felt my chest tighten. Here was a man who had lost everything, yet he refused to let life's cruelty harden him. Every line of code, every explanation, every patient repetition was proof of a heart that refused to give up. And somewhere deep inside, I felt a spark of admiration, respect, and something else I couldn't quite name. After the class ended, Daniel gathered a few kids and led them to a side room with older laptops. He handed each child a device, explaining how to install software and use it safely. One boy clutched the laptop to his chest like it was gold. Daniel smiled at him and whispered, "You can do this. I know you can." I finally stepped inside, clearing my throat softly. Daniel looked up, startled for just a moment, then nodded politely. "Can I help you?" I hesitated. I'm Alexis Monroe. I work at Hion Systems. My words faltered. How do you explain watching someone from the shadows, following them because you thought they might be a threat, only to realize they're the most extraordinary person you've ever met? He studied me, curious but calm. "Hion Systems? You don't work here at night." I saw you last night." My voice barely carried. I had to know what you were doing. I needed to understand." Daniel's expression softened slightly. "You were worried I was doing something wrong?" I admitted, "I thought you might be a threat. But what you're doing, it's incredible. I didn't expect any of this." He chuckled softly, the sound quiet but full of warmth. "Most people don't. That's okay. I don't do this for attention. I do it because someone had to, because they deserve it." And then it hit me. The reason he had lost everything at Vanguard Logic, the reason he had been overlooked wasn't because he lacked skill or vision. It was because he had chosen integrity over status. He had stood up for what was right, even when it cost him his career, his wife, his security. And now he was teaching these kids, rebuilding a world that had overlooked them and him. I stepped closer, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. A strange mix of awe and something else, a pull toward a man whose life was a lesson I needed to see. I want to help," I said quietly. Daniel tilted his head, studying me for a long moment. "Why would a CEO want to help a group of kids in a rundown community center?" "Because," I said, my voice steadying, "I've realized we've been measuring people the wrong way. You're showing me how to see differently. I don't want to overlook anyone else." He smiled, faint but genuine. "Then maybe you're ready to learn what it really takes." For the next hour, I watched as he repaired broken machines, taught complex coding concepts in simple ways, and encouraged kids to push past their fear of failure. Every touch, every word, every patient repetition built not just skills, but confidence. I realized I had been missing this kind of leadership all my life, the kind that didn't demand attention, but earned respect by action. By the time I left, I felt changed, not just impressed, not just inspired, but like I had glimpsed a life that was both heartbreaking and beautiful. A man who had lost everything had found purpose in helping others. And somewhere in that realization, I felt something growing inside me, something I hadn't expected. Respect, yes. Admiration, absolutely. But maybe something else. That night, I went home thinking of Daniel, of the children, of the quiet power of someone who never demanded recognition, yet changed lives every single day. And I knew, without fully understanding why, that my life, and maybe even my heart, would never be the same.
The next few days were a blur. Back at High Systems, the office felt different. Every time I walked past the glass walls where Daniel worked as a night janitor, I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he moved with quiet purpose, the way he taught those kids, the patience in his voice, it stayed with me like a song I couldn't forget. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just watch from afar anymore. Then the alert came, the kind every CEO dreads. A critical system error had been discovered in the integration layer of our product just days before the launch. Panic rippled through the office. Developers rushed around, frantically typing, arguing, trying to figure out the problem. Meetings were called, solutions were proposed, rejected, then reproposed. Nothing worked. The tension was unbearable. And then I saw him, Daniel, standing outside the conference room, quietly cleaning the glass walls. He never looked in, never said a word, but through the reflection, I saw his eyes scanning, calculating, reading the problem like it was just another line of code waiting to be fixed. I made a split-second decision. "Daniel," I called softly, my voice carrying just enough for him to hear. He turned, surprise flashing briefly across his face. "I need you." He paused, then nodded. "Show me," he said. I led him into the conference room. The technical leads froze when they saw him. Some whispered, some stared, some didn't believe their eyes. A janitor, our janitor, was now standing next to the CEO. "This is Daniel Wright," I said, voice firm. "He was the lead systems architect at Vanguard Logic. He just identified the root cause of our integration error." Daniel didn't speak much at first. He studied the code, hands hovering over the keyboard, eyes narrowing. Then he began to type. Slowly at first, then faster, methodical, confident. Within minutes, the energy in the room shifted. Developers stopped talking, stopped arguing. They watched as he navigated the problem effortlessly, explaining each step in simple, clear terms. "It's not in the integration layer," he said, voice calm but commanding. "The issue is in the original memory allocation module. When user traffic exceeds a certain threshold, it leaks, bringing down the entire application stack." I didn't need him to explain how he knew. I trusted him. The room was silent, every eye on him. "Can you fix it if I give you full access to the source code and a team that listens?" I asked. He nodded, quietly. "I can." For the next 48 hours, Daniel worked side by side with the developers. The transformation was astonishing. Not only did he fix the problem, but he streamlined the system in ways no one had imagined. It was faster, lighter, more efficient. The tension in the office lifted, replaced by awe and respect. People who had once walked past him without a second glance now stopped, stared, whispered. The janitor wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was a hero in plain sight. When the product finally launched, it was perfect. No crashes, no glitches, just smooth performance and flawless user experience. The stock jumped immediately, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was seeing Daniel quietly step back, his work done, still humble, still focused on what really mattered. I couldn't let it go. I had to acknowledge him, publicly, in front of everyone. So I called a company-wide meeting the following Monday. The atrium filled with employees, from executives to cleaning staff, all curious. I took the stage, heart pounding, trying to find the words to honor a man who had already refused recognition for so long. "Today," I began, "we're not just celebrating a successful product launch. We're celebrating something far greater than any number or metric. We're celebrating truth, integrity, and unseen dedication." I gestured to the back row. Daniel stood there, mop in hand, the faded blue of his uniform still clinging to his frame. Many of us know Daniel as the man who keeps this building clean at night. Few know that before this job, he was the lead systems architect at Vanguard Logic, the very man who laid the foundation for the technology we use today.
The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward him. I continued. Daniel once faced a choice few of us could imagine. He discovered a flaw in a medical system that could have harmed real people. He raised a concern, was fired, and shut out of the industry. And while we walked past him every day, he quietly continued to do the right thing, teaching, repairing, building, and inspiring those who had been overlooked. I stepped down and approached him. On behalf of the company, I want to apologize for not seeing you sooner, and I want to offer you the role you deserve, head of engineering. Daniel blinked, then shook his head slowly. I appreciate that, he said, his voice quiet but firm, but I have to decline. Yes, I lost a career, but in doing so, I found something else. At Harbor Light, I see kids who never dreamed of touching a keyboard now building apps, learning, growing. I can't walk away from that. A murmur ran through the room. I nodded, understanding, not disappointed. Then we'll do this differently. Hyon will launch a community tech initiative in partnership with Harbor Light, and if you agree, you'll lead it. Daniel's eyes softened. I accept, but only if the goal isn't prestige. It's for the kids who are still waiting for a chance outside these walls. The room erupted in applause, but in that moment, all I saw was him, the man who had been invisible, overlooked, yet quietly shaping lives with patience, skill, and heart. I realized then that leadership wasn't about titles or offices. It was about seeing, understanding, and believing in people others ignored.
After the company meeting, everything changed, not just for Daniel, but for me too. Harbor Light became more than a community center. It became a place where I could see the impact of one person's quiet dedication. I started visiting regularly, leaving behind my CEO schedule, my spreadsheets, my endless meetings. Instead, I brought myself, my curiosity, and slowly, my heart. Daniel never made me feel like an outsider. He welcomed me in small ways, offering an extra chair, making tea when I stayed late, showing me the little victories. A student who had finally learned to code, a boy who built his first app, a girl who fixed her laptop all on her own. He didn't need recognition, but he let me see the world through his eyes. And slowly, I began to see him, not as a janitor, not as a former systems architect, but as a man whose heart was enormous, whose patience was endless, whose integrity was unshakable. Our children, Ava and Noah, became inseparable. They shared jokes, competed over small coding projects, and spent hours together, tinkering with circuits and robots. Watching them, I realized I had been holding back in life, too busy measuring success by numbers and schedules. Daniel taught them, and through them, he was teaching me as well, how to be present, how to care without condition, how to see the world differently. One evening, as the sun dipped low over Boston, I stayed behind after class, sitting on the wooden steps outside the center. Daniel joined me, quiet, thoughtful. We watched the children laugh and run, their voices ringing through the courtyard. He didn't speak at first. "There was a time," he said softly, "I thought I'd never feel this again. Family, laughter, a full table. I didn't think I'd ever get a second chance." I looked at him, feeling something I couldn't quite name. I thought I'd never trust anyone enough to just sit still without checking the time, I admitted. He smiled faintly, just enough for me to see it. Some things you don't plan for, you just find them. From that evening on, our visits became a rhythm. Shared dinners, quiet talks, small laughter, the comfort of companionship. Daniel never tried to change me, and I never tried to impress him. We existed together in simple moments, and it felt like discovering a world I'd forgotten existed. The Harbor Light Initiative grew quickly. Former students returned as assistants. Some earned scholarships, others landed internships. And through it all, Daniel remained focused on the children, on teaching, on giving them a chance to see a future they never imagined. I watched him, silently amazed at his generosity and dedication, and slowly I realized that my admiration had quietly deepened into something more profound, a connection I couldn't ignore. One spring afternoon, the courtyard was filled with laughter, colorful paper flags fluttering in the breeze. I stood near the microphone, looking at the crowd, but my eyes kept returning to him, Daniel, at the back, quietly observing, guiding a student's hand over a keyboard. In that moment, I understood something vital.
Life isn't about titles or recognition. It's about the lives we touch, the trust we build, the love we share. After the ceremony, I walked over to him. He was helping Noah adjust a temperature sensor while Ava followed instructions on connecting wires. "All good?" I asked softly. He nodded. "They're already doing better than we did at their age." We walked together through the yard, quiet for the first time in a long while. The children played around us, laughter spilling into the spring air. And for the first time, we didn't need titles, status, or schedules. There was just us. He took my hand gently. I held it back without hesitation. No CEO, no janitor, no past mistakes, no fears. Just two people who had once lost their way, now quietly redefining what it meant to lead, to care, to love. That old rundown building had changed, but the real transformation was in us, in the children, and the lives quietly shaped by a man who refused to stop giving and a woman who finally learned to see. Together, we built something far more valuable than any product or profit: trust, hope, and the love that grew naturally from respect, admiration, and shared purpose. At Harbor Light, we had discovered a truth that money, titles, and awards could never teach. Sometimes, the strongest hearts and the greatest brilliance exist where the world least expects it. And sometimes, when you finally see it, it changes everything.